I'd like to thank the authors of this particularly terrible publication, which pretty much provides an example of everything I warned people about regarding this type of publication. This is covered in my full analysis video, but for those of you who don't want to watch something that long, this particular article breakdown will give you a nice idea. As I've said in my other videos, you can pretty much find anything online that you want in order to support what you already want to believe. Therefore, you must consider the ulterior motives of the publication. Who published it? Who funded the study that's being published? So, right off the bat, you see that this was funded by the California Cattle Council. And what do you know? The conclusion is that we need more cows grazing in more areas. Look at the title carried by the author: Livestock and Natural Resources Advisor. Livestock, natural resources. Let's just slap them together as if that makes sense. That's like putting someone who is running a child sex trafficking operation in charge of a city's youth program. The article starts, predictably, by focusing on fear, California's wildfire threat, and that's a great plan, because how better to influence the mentality of your audience than through fear? The article quickly moves on to the biofuel topic. Again, predictably, and it stays on this topic for a long time and really gets into it, giving us numbers and how much weight exactly is consumed in different areas over a different period of time. To your average reader, it's a natural conclusion that getting rid of fire fuel means less fire, which means less wildfires. And this particular article stays on the topic of biofuel for a long time, really driving into your brain that eating plants reduces plants. But while the audience is focused on this astounding realization that fire fuel and fire have a relationship with each other, the article completely dodges the fact that it is climate change, severe drought, severe heat, and wind that cause fire, not plants. It completely leaves out very important information that you need to know, that areas with the most protection, meaning areas that are subjected to the least amount of human interference, such as logging and grazing, are the areas that suffer the least wildfire problems. While, on the other side of the spectrum, areas that are the most heavily managed have the worst fire problems. Untouched forests, one would naturally preclude, would have the most biofuel accumulating inside of them, and yet they are not the ones that are just bursting into flame. Again, we have to look at the realization that it is what we have done to the earth that is going wrong, not that earth got it wrong from the beginning. Not that plants are bad, not that trees are bad. Where these wildfire flames are very often originally sparked are on roadsides, which are heavily covered with invasive fire fuel plants. Sadly, some of these roads are now built into forests for the purpose of taking out and profiting from the chopping down of these trees. Goes back to my big picture argument that trees are not the bad guys. Nature didn't get it wrong. Nature didn't need us to come in and manage a problem that's been around since the existence of trees. Nature wasn't stupid. It was us. Us, the creatures that around the world intentionally chop down and burn down forests and add cattle grazing and deplete our water sources all across the globe, that turn around and have the nerve to say, oh my God, where are these fire conditions coming from? Why is the earth heating up? And in turn, we say, well, you know what we should do? Chop down more trees and add more cattle. This article continues by going so far as to say that the cattle are actually providing a service by potentially preventing the encroachment of trees and shrubs onto grasslands. For those of you who don't know this, only 1% of California's native grasslands are intact. California's native plants were replaced by annual invasive plants, thanks to animal agriculture dating back to the 1800s. A fact that this article leaves out despite repeatedly referencing the importance of grasslands. The trees and shrubs that you see encroaching on this land is nature attempting to recover. But we have rangeland specialists and livestock advisors standing in nature's way every step of the way, while having the nerve to tell all of us that they are doing us a favor. Look back at my footage. The only green plants that you see out in California's rolling hills nowadays, the only plants with any fire resistance still built into them, are the native plants. And here's an article saying cows can help get rid of those. Let's keep it all golden and brown annual fire fuel. One thing that the article did get right is that you can find grazing cows everywhere in California. Everywhere, as my most recent road trip once again sadly reminded me. Highway 1, Highway 80, 880, 680, Highway 5. It's all a sobering reminder that once you wake up and realize what you're looking at, when you peer through your car window, it's all cattle or crops. Native land is gone. The two problems are standing on top of each other for us to see with our own eyes over and over and over again. Non-native plants being consumed by non-native livestock. Would anyone else like to see a different animal than a cow or a goat or a horse on a road trip? Like my entire trip, nothing except livestock in the hills of California. That's sad. And yet, what we hear is that we need more of it. Shortening plants via grazing does not stop wildfires from happening when you're facing wildfire conditions. Although this article implies that it does, but they do kind of stop short of actually claiming so. But they leave the idea in your mind. While they also use words like may and can, things that really don't mean anything, because you can almost always make an argument that something might be possible, or it could potentially help. And while these glittering generalities are thrown out there, they again leave out scientific conclusions of long-term studies showing that livestock grazing did in fact help the situation. That's because those conclusions don't exist, but the opposite conclusions do. And finally, in an attempt to sound hopeful and inspiring, the author implores us to use all the tools in our toolbox to face the challenges ahead. And yet, instead of actually using those tools, such as science, such as innovation, such as history, such as our big brains, to come up with other plans other than cows. Nope, the conclusion is cows. That's how we're going to solve the problem. Cows. Amazing. The livestock industry's conclusion is to use more cows.